The past 4 days have been really tough for me, and I'm reaching out for advice on what to do next because things have gotten pretty messed up. Here's my story. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I've been married to my wife for 8 years. We have 2 great kids, but the problem is with my friend Josh, who's also 35, and his wife Mary, who's 34. I met Josh back in college, and we've been friends ever since. We both love tech stuff, and he's the person I go to when I need to talk. Josh and Mary have been together for about 5 years now. Mary is a bit different from my wife and me. She's kind of loud, likes attention a lot, and can be tricky. They've had a rocky relationship, breaking up and getting back together multiple times. Mary is usually the one who ends things, but somehow they always get back together after a few months. I also know that Mary cheated on Josh with at least 2 guys while they were dating, but she somehow made Josh think it was his fault that things weren't going well. My wife knows about all this, and she's always kept her distance from Mary. Still, we see her at parties with friends. Last year, Josh and Mary got married. But last month, Josh found out that Mary was cheating on him again, this time with a coworker. Josh was devastated, and he stayed at our place for a week before confronting Mary and kicking her out of their house. Josh bought the house before they got married, so he had to involve the cops to make her leave. From what we know, Mary moved back to her parents' house, and I've been helping Josh with the divorce process. Now, here's where things get really messed up. Last Saturday, Mary came to Josh's house with her dad to pick up her things. I told Josh to leave the house when she came, but he wanted to make sure she didn't take anything that wasn't hers. While they were there, Josh and Mary got into a fight, and Mary told Josh that she had an affair with me during their marriage, even saying we did stuff in their bedroom. This is completely untrue. I've always kept my distance from Mary because I knew she was trouble. I think she's just trying to hurt Josh by making up lies. After that, Josh came to my house all upset. When I opened the door, he started yelling at me and accusing me of sleeping with Mary. Luckily, the kids weren't home, but my wife and I were shocked. He even tried to hit me, but he only got my shoulder, and I managed to calm him down. I kept telling him that what Mary said was totally false, and I never spent any time alone with her. My wife threatened to call the cops, and Josh left. After he left, my wife was really upset. It took me a long time to calm her down and make her believe that Mary was just trying to mess with Josh's head. I work from home and rarely go out without my wife or kids, so it's impossible that I could have done what Mary claimed. I think my wife believes me, but she's been acting differently for the last 4 days. Now, Josh has told our friends, including me, that I had an affair with Mary. He won't answer my calls or my wife's calls. My wife even tried to call Mary, but she won't pick up either. Everyone, including Josh, thinks I'm a terrible person for supposedly getting involved with his wife. I have no idea how to convince anyone that this is not true, and it's really frustrating. Can someone please give me advice on what I can do next? Update. After posting on Reddit, my wife and I spent a few hours at night reading through all the comments. We immediately decided to explore whether we could sue Mary for defamation. Some of you suggested that I should take a polygraph test. I asked my wife if we should find a place for that and she smiled. She said she does not doubt me one bit, but we can't let people have any doubt that I had an affair with Mary. Our kids are friends with their kids, and we can't live with them thinking I had an affair with Mary. She just wanted us to be strong and solve the issue as soon as possible. In the morning, we messaged my wife's mother's friend, who is a very experienced attorney. We called her based on the time she gave us in the morning and explained the issue. She said that we should pursue the legal route, but she does not handle such cases and gave us the contact of another attorney in her firm and set up a meeting with her at noon. We went to visit her and discussed the issue. The lawyer told us that we could sue Mary as she has made false accusations and there is a precedent of considering what she said as slander, as it attacked my character and we can prove emotional distress. However, she told us that a defamation lawsuit is a very long and expensive process and may take several years. She told us that Mary has a weak hand and she will not want to go to court. Hence, we should give her a way out by telling her to give in writing that what she said was false. Moreover, as she said the false statement to Josh, We would need Josh to state what she said. I won't go into details here but might post it in the comments later on. However, we came up with a plan for sending her a letter of intent to sue for defamation. The attorney worked on this and we got notified that Mary received the letter on Friday morning at her parents' place. The letter told her that we would sue her by the end of the month if she did not provide an official statement in writing that the statements she had made were false. The letter also told Mary to only communicate via the law firm regarding this matter. As planned, I messaged Josh and told him we had decided to sue Mary for defamation due to the false statements she made about the affair. We would leave no stone unturned to prove that the allegations are false. Our lawyers will contact you next week and we hope you cooperate with them and tell them exactly what she said to you. On Saturday morning, as I was cooking breakfast and my wife was sitting with our kids, the doorbell rang. I saw the Ring camera that Josh and Mary standing outside the door. Before I could tell my wife to stay back and not open the door, she bolted towards the door. She opened it and started yelling at Josh. She is 5'0" tall, but she is scary when she is angry. She just started calling him names and how can he destroy our lives when we supported him at his lowest? Josh just keeps saying, he just wanted to talk to me and kept repeating that. He looked down. My wife just kept on yelling at him and telling him to get lost. Mary started talking then, saying that she was sorry for what she said. Josh was abusing her as she was packing, and she just said that to hurt him. She just kept on saying that Josh is such an idiot and has created such a big mess. My wife turned to her and told her that she better find a good lawyer to reply to our lawyers. At last, she told Josh that if he wanted to meet me, go and first make things right for me and then slam the door. I was watching all this from the breakfast table through Ring camera and realized that we recorded the whole conversation including Mary confessing her lies. I felt so relieved in the moment knowing that I had proof of her telling the truth. We forwarded the video to our lawyer, and she sent a thumbs up and called us briefly to say that we should meet on Monday to discuss the next steps. After an hour or so, Josh messaged our friends group that he did a terrible thing and spread false statements about me. He is ashamed of it and wants to apologize for it. Moments later, Mary messaged saying that some statements she made were misconstrued by Josh and that what he told everyone was false. Their relationship is going through rocking times and would thank everyone for giving them privacy and to pray for them. The rest of the day has been great. I have been taking my kids to their Saturday activities and playing with them, while my wife was talking on the phone with all my friends' wives and her friends gossiping about what happened. The only thing I told her was to not send the Ring video of Josh and me from last week and not to mention Mary's affair to them. I still think it's a private matter that Josh told us in confidence, and we should respect that. Everyone was shocked that Josh attacked me physically. Regarding my friends, I made a blanket statement that they all hate me in the last post. But, in reality, 4 of my friends called me during this week to ask me what was going on. They told me they knew how crazy Mary was and asked me how they could support me. One of the friends was the one that Josh had called. He told me that Josh told him that Mary had an affair.
Second story.
From childhood, Kylie and I shared a close bond as best friends. A month ago, her world crumbled when her boyfriend betrayed her. My boyfriend and I stepped in as pillars of support during her dark days. Our efforts included taking her out for dinner, inviting her along on our holidays, and ensuring she felt our unwavering companionship. As the days passed, Kylie gradually began to heal. The pain from her past relationship seemed to dissipate, replaced by genuine smiles and newfound happiness. However, she chose to abstain from dating, expressing her inability to trust another guy too soon. We respected her decision and continued to stand by her, offering our full support. Recently, Kylie visited our house. While my boyfriend stepped out to fetch some food, I welcomed her and invited her to join us for lunch. As he left, Kylie approached me with an unexpected revelation. Her tone was hesitant, and she avoided eye contact, creating an uneasy atmosphere. To my astonishment, she expressed a desire to spend a night with my boyfriend. The shock reverberated through me, and it took a moment to process her words. She recounted the misery she endured post-breakup, highlighting my boyfriend's role in making her feel valued and content. She described the experiences of dinners and trips, actions her ex had failed to provide. According to her, She started feeling a sense of belonging and wanted to regain her self-esteem through this unconventional proposition. She believed that this act would help her rebuild trust in others, making it a favor that would ultimately benefit her mental and emotional well-being. Stunned and offended, I firmly rejected her proposal, asking her to leave my house immediately. In response, she urged me to consider her plea calmly, claiming that I was ungrateful. As the tension escalated, she became aggressive, labeling me as selfish and suggesting that my boyfriend deserved better. After her departure, I attempted to seek support from our mutual friends. However, I was met with unexpected roadblocks as I discovered that most of them had blocked me, implying that Kylie might have poisoned their perception of me. Disturbed by the turn of events, I refrained from disclosing the incident to my boyfriend, knowing his deep connection with Kylie, considering her akin to a sister. Now, I find myself torn between wanting to sever ties with Kylie to protect my relationship and preserving the delicate balance within our friend circle. In this perplexing situation, I grapple with the fear of potential harm to my wonderful relationship and the need to confront the upheaval caused by Kylie's actions. Am I being unreasonable for contemplating a breakup of my friendship with her? Update. It was around 11:30 p.m. when my boyfriend arrived home. I was sitting downstairs, feeling urgent about something, so he inquired about it. I asked him to sit down and shared everything Kylie had said to me. Holding back no details, I explained how she fabricated stories to our friends, leading some of them to block me. I showed him the blocked contacts, revealing the aftermath. He listened in silence, his eyes fixed on mine. From his expression, it seemed he was having a hard time believing what he was hearing. After a moment of disbelief, he composed himself and hugged me tightly. I hugged him back, and we spent some time finding comfort in each other's embrace. He expressed disbelief that Kylie would harbor such thoughts and emotions. He mentioned that he had never given her any reason to think that way and couldn't fathom why she would say such things directly to me. He felt emotionally drained, thinking he had built a sisterly bond with Kylie, only to find out it was all in vain. I reassured him, talking to him as he laid his head on my chest, assuring him it wasn't his fault. In a moment of vulnerability, he sobbed a little, but then regained composure. He took out his phone to check if Kylie had sent him any messages. Fortunately, she hadn't. He decided to confront her, sending a lengthy text expressing his disappointment and making it clear he never wanted to see her again. He even mentioned the possibility of obtaining a restraining order if she approached our home. After sending the message, he blocked her on all social media platforms. Taking further action, he messaged 2 friends who had blocked me, calling them out for their actions and expressing gratitude for removing negativity from my life. Subsequently, he blocked them as well. I felt a sense of happiness and support seeing how he stood by me during this challenging situation. Following these events, we shared dinner together and went to sleep. Since Kylie left our house, none of us have heard anything from her, and frankly, we prefer it that way. Now, with the hope that things will only get better between us, my boyfriend and I are planning our engagement very soon.
Third story.
So first off, I never cheated on my wife. We have an open marriage. We each have our own extramarital partners that we see together and or by ourselves. My co-workers all know I'm married as wife accompanies me to work events, but they did not know about our open marriage. A few months ago my wife told me she got sent a bunch of pictures from my co-worker, Jordan. The pictures are of me when I was on a date with another woman. My wife knows about this partner and knew about us being out that date, so she was not surprised at all, but found the whole thing funny. I however was a little weirded out. I could understand maybe taking a picture or two, but based on the pictures Jordan would have had to been following us for 5+ hours, to the point where she must have followed us in a car to multiple locations as well as waited outside the hotel room the whole time. That just creeped me out. After explaining that to my wife, she agreed it was a little creepy. Jordan and I usually work together fairly frequently, but I didn't feel comfortable working with her anymore. So I decided to talk to HR about it and Jordan was put on other projects. The other projects Jordan got put on aren't as good as the projects I on. So now Jordan is upset because she thinks I derailed her career, which honestly may be true when all she was doing was trying to look out for my wife. Update. So a thing happened with a new coworker yesterday. When making introductions, Jordan decided to bring up my open marriage, which was super awkward and weird. I ended up going back to HR about it at the end of the day. They had already gotten other comments from some other employees about it and said right away that it was inappropriate and they would be taking disciplinary action. When I came into work today, I found out Jordan was let go. Funny little thing I heard from someone else was that she apparently had tried to defend herself by saying she was just trying to be helpful by making sure the new employee was clearly informed and didn't misunderstand things like her.
Fourth story.
In the last 6 months of our relationship, my girlfriend and I, though living separately, had been building a connection filled with dreams of a shared future. She, a refugee from war, resided with relatives, and we eagerly anticipated a time when our living situation might change. One morning, she texted me, asking for an in-person conversation later that day. Meeting up, I was relieved to hear that nothing was wrong between us, but the revelation she had left me in shock. She was pregnant. A whirlwind of emotions ensued. Initially, I couldn't believe it. We were meticulous about choosing condoms, and she was on birth control, a choice she made independently. My thoughts tumbled out in a ramble, followed by an apology for the unexpected news. I expressed solidarity with her and sought her thoughts, to which she admitted confusion about how to feel. She asked about my thoughts, and I embarked on sharing my thought process. I conveyed the belief that our current life stage involved securing a good job, making money, getting married, buying a house, and then starting a family. Given that we were both on the second step of this process and she was still finding her footing in the U.S., living with relatives and lacking a permanent residence, I stressed that while I always envisioned a future with her, marriage, a house, and kids, we weren't ready just yet. She summarized, "So, you're saying abortion?" Acknowledging a leaning towards a 60-40 preference for abortion, I clarified that if we decided to keep the baby, I would expedite other aspects of our life to handle it properly, a plan that seemed impractical. Despite my assurance of love and commitment, she empathetically responded, expressing concern about forcing parenthood on me and disrupting my life plans. I emphasized that this wasn't solely my life plan. It was ours. After more conversation, we left, and later, I messaged her, reiterating my unwavering support for whatever decision she made. I emphasized our journey together, expressing relief and happiness, mixed with honesty about not feeling fully ready for parenthood. She responded with love and an assurance not to force me into anything. She indicated that she needed time to process her thoughts. A subtle shift occurred as she used "I" more often, raising concerns. Despite my repeated assurances of support for her decision, I sensed a subtle change. Wanting to understand her perspective better, I inquired about her thoughts and received a reply affirming her ability to handle the situation. The conversation took a turn when she admitted seeing me a little differently, not necessarily in a bad way. I probed further, and she explained that she expected a different answer from me, and my response was somewhat painful for her. She insisted that I need not live up to her illusions, acknowledging my authenticity. The conversation ended with a note of uncertainty about her feelings and a request not to discuss the matter further. Expressing my desire to maintain our relationship, I received a response indicating uncertainty about her future feelings towards me after this situation concludes. This unexpected turn puzzled me, given her usual analytical thinking and pro-choice stance. Our past discussions about the future involved a shared belief in a methodical approach, with her even stating she wouldn't move in until marriage. Plans to introduce her to my parents next month as my intended life partner were suddenly in question. Now, I grapple with how to help her understand that my considerations are for both of us. I aim to continue our relationship while navigating this complex situation with care. Yet, I find myself unsure of her thoughts and emotions, wondering if she needs time to process this uncharacteristic event in our journey together. Update. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who shared their advice and perspectives, especially those who did so with kindness and understanding. Your insights have truly made a difference. I also want to thank those who wished me well and offered their support. You guys are amazing. In the aftermath of the situation, I decided to give my girlfriend some space. I took a break from work and embarked on a few days of aimless driving. Venturing away from the bustling city, I allowed myself to be enveloped by the open air, providing me with the mental clarity needed to contemplate my priorities. The valuable input from all of you resonated in my thoughts, and I couldn't deny the validity of many points raised. The reality hit hard. My girlfriend, a refugee from war, might be pregnant, and the man she considers her life partner suggested abortion. I felt a surge of anger directed at myself. Wasn't I just a hypocrite? Just because my life plans aren't perfectly aligned doesn't justify recommending something as profound as abortion. I realized I had desired to start a family with her, and my suggestion was contradictory and thoughtless. Upon my return, my commitment solidified. I drove past 3 jewelry stores, exploring engagement ring options. 2 particularly caught my eye, but I opted to delay the purchase until Friday, intending to discuss it with her in person. However, our meeting happened sooner than anticipated. During our face-to-face conversation, she disclosed that a subsequent pregnancy test at the doctor's office yielded a negative result, contradicting the initial at-home test. She even shared a screenshot of the negative result. Though there was a hint of disappointment within me, I chose to keep these sentiments to myself. Our in-person dialogue was extensive, an attempt to understand her thoughts thoroughly. She expressed a desire contrary to my suggestion, feeling deeply upset and admitting a fleeting urge to hit me. Later, she confided that she no longer felt protected and sought solace in tears. This revelation left me utterly devastated, wishing I could turn back time and retract my ill-advised words. In the sincerest manner possible, I reassured her of my love and commitment. I conveyed my genuine desire to build a family with her and acknowledged the error in my initial stance on abortion. I apologized sincerely and inquired if she still wished to remain in the relationship. To my relief, she affirmed her love, stating that her emotions weren't as simple as an on-off switch. Promising to rebuild our relationship together, I pledged to make her smile every day and earn back her confidence in me. However, tensions lingered. While direct kisses became scarce, hugs continued, suggesting a complex emotional landscape. She seemed preoccupied with her phone, and vague reasons surfaced for declining dates this week. Trying to be understanding, I attributed this behavior to her need for space and a hesitancy to fully re-engage. Now, looking ahead to rebuilding our relationship, I seek additional ways to mend what has been strained. Beyond spending quality time and fostering open communication, I am open to any suggestions or insights I might have overlooked. Your continued support and advice are truly appreciated. Update: great news. Contrary to the suggestions of others, she approached me less than a week after my last post, telling me to stop giving her space with a playful lol. It turned out she didn't like how I was acting distant, and she was genuinely upset, avoiding kisses and reducing our conversations. Clearly, she was mad at me. However, she expressed a desire for reconciliation, urging me to demonstrate care and commitment to moving past our recent discord. With that, I stopped moping around, and since then, we've been back to dating and being together. A few weeks later, I decided to discuss how we should handle such situations in the future. We both agreed that, at this point in our lives, we aren't ready for the responsibilities of parenthood. Despite acknowledging that I was correct in my initial stance, we also agreed that suggesting abortion too readily wasn't the best approach. I recognize that there might be challenges ahead, but I am fully committed to navigating this journey. I've adopted the mindset of manning up, understanding that it might not be the healthiest perspective, but it works for us. She sees me as her backbone and tether, and I am determined to fulfill that role for her.
Fifth story, sixth story.
We are a tourist here in Edmonton. Our visa will expire on April. My wife is having an affair with a fellow tourist. I want to go back to our home country now with my son, but wife is hiding his passport. Can I call the police to get help on getting the passport? I also called my lawyer from our country. And since we are legally married, I don't need her consent to travel with my son and come back home. So I just need to get hold of his passport and we'll be on our way home. Update: me and my son were able to come back home this weekend. I was able to find my son's passport in her bag a couple of weeks ago when she came back home after a date with her boyfriend. Consulted my lawyers and I was told I could come home without her consent since we were just a tourist going back to our home residence. I booked a nearby Airbnb to purchase new luggage bags, clothing, toys, and milk that we need to use during our travel and to restart our life back home. It took me 3 days to prepare. One day, me and my son went out for a day in the mall, but she didn't know that I already booked a flight ticket and we went to the airport. Our flight was from Edmonton to LA, and then a connecting flight from LA to our home country. I sent her an email right before taking off to LA, letting her know that we were going back home and that she could come to see our son in our home anytime she was done with whatever she wanted to do in Canada. She called the police. Canadian border found out about our flight going to LA. As we exited the plane, 2 LAPD officers took me and my son and interrogated us. I explained to them my side and our situation. Took our details, my son's birth certificate, and our flight back home that night. I told them my son hadn't been checked up by a pediatrician and never had a vaccine since October. I was asked if my wife has work and who is paying. I told them I was paying for everything, the apartment, food, and all in Canada, and that my wife doesn't have a job and is having an affair outside our marriage. They were calling the Canadian police, and after 30 minutes, got the green light to continue our journey. The officers even helped us get our luggage. We are back home safe now. My son's scheduled to get his vaccine next week. He's happy and playing outside every day as it isn't -20. My wife hasn't called or even checked on my son except for one long message from the night we left. I guess she's happy with her newfound boyfriend and single life. She knew I would never go back home without our son and was just making it harder for me. She sent a long-ass message to my son and asked me to have him read it when he's able. That would be about 5-7 years from now. She's still a tourist in Canada and I'm not sure what her plans are. I'm glad I won't be spending any more money. She deactivated all her social media accounts. I don't give AFCK anymore what she wants to do. I'll be filing custody here in our country too.
6th story.
My friend Mark, who's 18, is having a lot of problems with his girlfriend Leah, also 18. They got together in February during high school, and their relationship is a mess. Mark really loves Leah, saying she's the one he wants to marry. But Leah has cheated on Mark several times. Every time she does, she gives Mark excuses like he's not supportive, or she made a mistake, or she wanted to see him get jealous. Mark believes Leah acts this way because her father was abusive to her and her mother, and she has a lot of trauma. Mark wants to help her, but things aren't going well. Since September, Leah has been seeing another guy, Derek, who's 22, and she's totally into him. I know this because my friends and Mark told me. I was away for college. Mark argues a lot with Leah about Derek, and she threatens to leave Mark if he doesn't accept her for who she is. He does. They entered a semi-open relationship, meaning Leah can see Derek whenever she wants, but Mark can't see anyone else. Leah feared Mark would become emotionally invested and leave her. Mark agreed, but he's been upset about it for months. Since November, Leah has been seeing Derek more than Mark. Even though Mark won't admit it, our other friends told me she's essentially in a full-time relationship with Derek and only comes to Mark for money and emotional support. Fast forward to this week, and I'm back home for a break. On Saturday, Mark texts me, saying he hates Derek for trying to steal his girl and wants to beat him up that night. He asks me to come along because our other friends can't. I refuse because Leah seems like a lost cause, and I won't fight strangers for her. Mark begs me, saying Leah is the love of his life and he needs my help. I refuse again. He says he'll go alone, but I tell him it's not a good idea. I wake up Sunday morning to more than 300 messages from Mark and our friends. Long story short, Mark goes to Derek's place to bring Leah back. He ends up getting beaten up by Derek and his friends. They only stop when Leah asks them to. I tell Mark he should talk to a lawyer, but he refuses because Leah asked him not to escalate the situation. I tell him he's being dumb, and he gets angry, calling me names. I tell Mark he deserved to get jumped, and it makes sense why Leah prefers Derek over him. He hangs up, and we haven't spoken since. Since then, my other friends say I'm an asshole for how I handled the conversation, but they agree Mark is a dumbass. It's a messy situation, and everyone needs to think about their roles in it. Relationships are tricky, and sometimes tough love is needed, but it's hard to know where to draw the line. Update 1. Some of my friends and I decided to hang out with Mark to check on him. We didn't want to go to his parents' place because Leah was now living there, and we didn't want to see her. Mark looked really beaten up, with a black eye, bruises all over his face and arms, and a busted lip. But surprisingly, he was in a good mood and even insisted that I didn't need to apologize for how I spoke last time. He shared that Derek dumped Leah a few days after the fight. Derek asked Leah to break up with Mark. She refused, and they argued. Their conversation ended with Leah being kicked out of Derek's apartment in the middle of the night, and Mark had to pick her up. Despite requests from his parents and us, Mark refused to escalate the situation at Leah's request. Mark said Leah has been depressed about Derek dumping her and spends a lot of days crying. Mark is thankful to be there to comfort and emotionally support her. He keeps saying Leah chose him over Derek, and nothing can take that away. Leah has decided to return to living with Mark, even though she could go to her mother's house. The surprising part is that Mark believes Leah might be in the early stages of pregnancy now. We assumed the child was Derek's, but Mark insisted it would be his kid regardless. We suggested paternity testing, but he refused, saying he can't do that to Leah. We've told him the relationship is toxic, but he disagrees, saying it's a matter of perspective. His parents are unaware of the potential pregnancy. He told us not to say anything about Leah unless it's the absolute truth, praising her. My friends and I left stunned, and I'm considering slowly removing myself from Mark's life. It's tough because I've known him for a long time and enjoy his company. However, I don't think I can stay friends with him if I can't speak honestly. It's a challenging situation, and sometimes tough choices are necessary for personal well-being. Update 2. CK to college, so I haven't seen him since our last talk. All I know is from our WhatsApp group or what other guys shared with me. I've texted Mark twice, but those were about things not related to Leah. Here are some updates. Last weekend, Mark confirmed on our group chat that Leah is pregnant. He's excited about becoming a dad. We might not know if the child is his or Derek's since Mark rejected the idea of a paternity test and asked us not to bring it up again. My friends think it's Derek's based on the timeline. Mark and Leah are still living with his parents and plan to do so for a while. Mark works part-time and takes online courses at a college. They're mostly supported by his parents. Mark mentioned that his parents argued a bit, but he convinced them to let Leah and the child stay. Leah prefers staying with Mark rather than going back to her mom, according to Mark. It's just a guess, but some guys and I think Mark might have threatened no contact with his parents if they don't accept Leah and the kid. He hinted at that during our last conversation. Mark is trying to get Leah into therapy, but she keeps refusing. On the bright side, Mark said Leah is no longer interested in open relationships, possibly due to her fallout with Derek, and is dedicated to only him. It's a challenging situation, and I hope things work out for them. Mark mentioned that his parents argued a bit, but he convinced them to let Leah and the child stay. Leah prefers staying with Mark rather than going back to her mom, according to Mark. It's just a guess, but some guys and I think Mark might have threatened no contact with his parents if they don't accept Leah and the kid. He hinted at that during our last conversation. Mark is trying to get Leah into therapy, but she keeps refusing. On the bright side, Mark said Leah is no longer interested in open relationships, possibly due to her fallout with Derek, and is dedicated to only him. It's a challenging situation, and I hope things work out for them.
7 story.
I went out with my little brother's fiancée for a girls' night. They got engaged after dating for about a year, and this was one of the few times I hung out with her without my brother. We were having fun, a bit tipsy, and she started asking about my marriage and more personal stuff like being with one person forever. Then someone asked about the number of people each gal has slept with. I wasn't comfy, but my soon-to-be SIL took over, saying her and my brother don't bother about each other's past. She said, the past stays in the past. I agreed, but here's where I messed up. My little brother was quite adventurous in his late teens and early 20s. I knew this because we went to the same college and had mutual friends. I know the ballpark of his body count, and it's well over 50 women. My brother confirmed this when I asked him about being safe with his decisions at that time. My SIL said, even if it was a huge number like 35, I wouldn't care. That made me ask, what if it was 50 women? She looked strange, and I played it off, acting like I didn't know the actual number and was curious about her cutoff for a lot. A few days later, we met for lunch, and she seemed down. My brother was short with me. When she went to the bathroom, I asked my brother what's up. He blamed me for revealing his past to his fiancée and now she's acting strange. I explained it was a slip, but now he's angry, and some mutual friends say I messed up. I feel bad for accidentally revealing my brother's past, but I hope they can work it out. Communication is key, and I'll be more careful in the future. Update: I showed my brother the post after apologizing. He mostly laughed but was surprised at the hostile replies. My brother and future SIL are okay. My future SIL spoke to me privately. She's glad to have the conversation now. She said it was a shock when he told her his sexual history. I excused myself from the conversation, telling her I won't discuss my brother's sexual history anymore. My brother isn't seeking revenge as some commenters implied. He knows it wasn't my place to say, and he shouldn't have downplayed it in the early stages of their relationship. Yes, my brother and future SIL are still together. To those internet psychologists who called me psychopathic and narcissistic, go touch some grass. Some people wished sexual history was discussed more before marriage, while others had explicit messages in the opposite direction. For those implying an incestuous relationship, stop watching inappropriate content and clean your fingers. I was a college athlete too, and word spread fast in those groups. I'm close enough to ask my brother about being safe, and that's how I learned about his past.
8th story.
A year ago, my husband Marcus and I decided to have an open marriage. The spark was fading, and we thought about trying open relationships before. After talking about it and setting rules, I started using dating apps for quick hookups. Marcus wanted something semi-serious and struggled to find someone locally. I suggested he use a dating app, and he met Charmy, a law school student with well-off parents. Marcus was excited about her, but things got annoying when their plans clashed with mine, and I had to cancel my own plans for our kids. Marcus would stay up late talking to Charmy in our bed, only moving to the living room if I complained about being kept up or he had work. He spent a lot on gifts and fancy dinners for her, neglecting our agreed date nights. When I brought it up, Marcus said he was busy with work and accused me of not doing anything special for us. He'd walk away from the conversation. The last straw was our anniversary. Marcus wanted to celebrate Charmy's belated birthday instead, and we argued. He went to the guest bedroom and ignored me, even avoiding my calls and texts. Now he's coming home, and I'm frustrated. Our relationship has suffered since he started dating Charmy, but he seems so happy with her. At least he's not neglecting our kids. Update: there's a small update that might upset some people who were criticizing me and supporting my husband. After Marcus went to Charmy's place and they had dinner, dessert, and he gave her a birthday gift, she broke up with him. Charmy said her parents didn't approve of her dating an older man, and she needed to focus on her studies. Marcus pleaded with her, but she was firm. He came home, looking miserable, and shared the news with me. I didn't say anything, which made him angry, so he slept in the guest bedroom again. I think Marcus is trying to win Charmy back, judging by the items he saved for later on our shared Amazon account. He seems sad about the breakup but is putting on a brave face for the past couple of days. As for me, I plan to meet with a lawyer later this week to discuss separating from my husband and hopefully serve him the papers soon. I haven't told him about this yet. Sorry if this update isn't about my husband divorcing me and living happily with Charmy, but that's how things are. Thanks for listening everyone. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Red Relationships to never miss a future upload.